All of us has to deal with stress at some point in our lives. In fact, it is a part of our everyday life. But when you have too much stress for too long without having healthy coping strategies, it can really affect your physical and your mental health. Today, I've got some really great tips for you to help you manage stress, especially during those really busy, overwhelming periods. I'm Dunn. I'm a clinical and coaching psychologist, mindfulness meditation teacher, host of the Crappy to Happy podcast, and author of the Crappy to Happy books. And I am here to help you to overcome the barriers that get in the way of you living your best life. I'm so glad you're here. I hope you will subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of when I post a new video every single Tuesday. Let's talk about stress. Stress, by definition, is pressure on a system. And it's not always a bad thing, obviously. We experience stress all of the time and it motivates us to get things done. We challenge ourselves, we improve, we grow, we just get on with life. I notice that many people use the stress interchangeably with words like anxiety, worry, overwhelm. I'm really stressed, I'm really busy, I'm really anxious, I'm really overwhelmed, I'm really stretched. So I think it's really important that we get clear about the definition when we talk about stress. For me, when you feel unhealthy stress, when you feel like your stress is unmanageable, it's when the demands on you, on your resources, physical, mental, your time, your energy, all of the resources that you have available to you, when the demands of you exceed your capacity to meet those demands. You see, we all have demands made on us. We all have to get things done every day. We all have obligations and commitments and jobs to do and families to raise. And as long as we feel like we have the resources to meet those demands, to get things done, we've got the time, we've got the energy, we've got the space, we've got the help, whatever it is, then we're not stressed. We might be busy, we might occasionally feel overwhelmed, but we feel like we can cope. When we feel like we don't have the time, the energy, the mental capacity, the skills, the intellect, the knowledge, whatever it is, to meet the requirements, to meet the expectations that are being asked of us, that's when we start feeling that really unhealthy, that negative experience of stress. And too much of that stress, too much of that feeling of not being able to keep up, of being overwhelmed by too many requirements of you, when that is ongoing, unrelenting, without a break, that's when it can have really negative consequences. That's when it starts to affect our physical health and mental health. That's when it can potentially spiral into things like anxiety and things like depression. So my first tip, if you're experiencing stress, if you feel like there is too much to do, there is too little time, you're having trouble coping, you're having trouble keeping up, your head is full of all of the things, you feel confused and foggy and just really overwhelmed, my first tip is to just sit down, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and write everything down. Get a piece of paper and just write down everything that is causing you to feel stressed, everything that's on your to-do list, everything that you're worried about, the little things, the big things, just dump it all out of your head. Because when it's in your head, it is just this chaotic mess of noise. It's really hard to get any sort of clarity. It feels intense. It puts this pressure, even physically, you feel like you're carrying the weight of the world. But as soon as you get that out of your head and onto a piece of paper, you can start putting some distance between you and all of that stuff, and you can actually start to get some clarity. From there, you can actually decide, well, what is the most important? What are the niggly little things that you've been worried about that really aren't a priority right now? What's the really urgent, important things that need to be done that will take you closer to meeting your goals, that are the most important things to you according to your personal values, the things that have a direct negative consequence if they don't get done? And then what can you forget? What can you put aside? It might be that you can delegate some things, that you can ask for help, that you can outsource, or you can just dump some stuff if you really legitimately don't have the time or the space or the energy to deal with those things right now. Maybe they can be put off until later, but when you put them off, you put them out of your mind and you stop stressing and worrying about them. So from your list, you get some clarity, you prioritize, and you decide what you need to take action on very quickly. Because here's the thing, a lot of our stress is actually caused by inaction. We get anxious and overwhelmed and stressed out when we know there's things to do and we know that we're not making progress on those things. As soon as you get some clarity about your priorities and you actually decide to take some action, you schedule it, you put it in your diary, you actually start to do something, suddenly all of that anxiety, all of that stress actually sort of disappears. You think about it, you think about how stressed you get before an exam or before a presentation, but when you're actually in it, when you're doing it, you're not stressed, you're just focusing on what you're doing. You're just focusing on getting it done. It's the anticipation oftentimes, and it's the worrying about the event before it happens that produces all of these feelings of stress. So if we can actually be doing something, taking some action, that can have a really positive effect in helping us to reduce our stress because we feel like we're making some progress. My third tip then is while you are doing the things, you build in breaks. So when you've got a lot to do, when you're very busy, you're on a deadline, you've got multiple things that you're trying to juggle, it's very, very tempting to just push through, to keep on working, keep on doing. You tell yourself you don't have time for a break, you don't have time, you work through lunch, you drop the yoga class, you don't catch up with your friends. You've got to build in those breaks because what those breaks do is they replenish your physical and your mental and your emotional energy so that when you are working, you are at your best, your most effective, your most productive. Here's another thing. Research has shown that when you are focusing on a task, the longest that you can sustain your attention to any degree of real effectiveness is around about that 60 to 90 minutes, let's say 90 minutes. Beyond that, you start to get careless, you get fatigued, you start to make mistakes, which means that then you just have to come back and correct those mistakes later. You lose your efficiency. What starts to happen is the effort that you're making actually doesn't result in any sort of effective return. You are so much better off to just get up, walk away, take 15 minutes to have a breather, have a coffee, have a cup of tea, catch up with a friend, go outside, change the mental channel, and then come back fresh. Similarly, when we start dropping the exercise classes, the meditation, seeing our friends because we tell ourselves we're too busy, we start spiraling down into that exhaustion funnel. We actually start dropping off all of the things that we consider to be unimportant or negotiable, when in fact those are the very things that replenish you, replenish your energy, build your resources, build your reserves so that you have what it takes to go back in and be productive and be effective and get the most out of your time when you are focused on working or doing whatever it is that you need to be doing. My number 4 tip is to forget multitasking. There is no such thing. I want you to drop the word multitasking from your vocabulary. If you have not heard this already, multitasking is a myth. You cannot be doing 2 things effectively at the same time. The only thing you can be doing is switching. So you can switch from one task to another, but every time you do that, you reduce your productivity and your effectiveness. Switching from one task to another, the load on your brain, on your mental resources to actually change and switch to something else, takes 25% more energy to actually refocus on the new task. So that means even if you are flicking off to go and check Facebook or to check an email and then coming back to refocus on a task, these little micro moments that you're having to stop, pause, and get back in that zone, all those little interruptions add up to a dramatic decrease in productivity. In fact, studies have shown that multitasking reduces your productivity by up to 40%. So I would love for you to embrace single tasking, doing one thing at a time, even if it's just choosing one thing that you do, like I said, for 60 to 90 minutes. And you just focus on that one thing. Reduce distractions as much as you can, tune out interruptions, and just focus on one thing at a time. You will be amazed at how much more effective and productive you are, which means it will go a long way to alleviating your stress because, like I said, you will feel like you're making progress. Not to mention the clarity that you will have because you're not jamming your brain with one thing and then another thing and then this thing and then that thing. You actually get some clarity when you can just focus on one thing at a time. The 5th tip that I have is really, it applies to general life really, and that is as much as you can, focus on what you can control. We spend so much of our time and our mental energy worrying about things that are completely outside of our control. There is no point worrying about stuff that we have no control over. I know that we're all guilty of this because I'm sure there's a reason why my How to Stop Overthinking video has been the most popular video that I have posted on YouTube. We are obviously a world full of overthinkers. So, and a lot of what we're overthinking about is stuff that's outside of our control. So you can't control other people, you can't control other people's behavior, their reactions, their emotions, external circumstances, unexpected events, the weather. These are all things that we have no control over. So there is no point worrying about it. You're stressing about things that haven't happened yet, that you're anticipating that might happen. If you're ruminating, rehashing, I would really encourage you to go back and watch my overthinking video. I'm sure that you will find some helpful tips in there. My number 6 tip is to just be careful of unhelpful coping strategies. When we get stressed, it's very easy to slip into unhealthy coping strategies. It's things like numbing out with alcohol, with food, overeating, stress eating, binging Netflix, avoiding, blaming, complaining. There's all sorts of things that we do when we're stressed that are really unhelpful and unhealthy. So when you have a sense of what they are, see if you can actually substitute in some more healthy coping strategies. So healthy coping strategies are things like keeping up your exercise, making sure that you're eating well, getting enough sleep so that you're on your game, catching up with friends, like doing the yoga class, doing the important things like meditation, all of the things that you tend to drop when you tell yourself that you're too busy and that you don't have time. So again, really important to maintain those healthy habits so that you don't find yourself slipping into unhealthy coping strategies, which might make you feel better in the short term, but really at the end of the day, just add to your problems. They actually end up making you more stressed because they affect your body, they affect your energy, they affect your focus. And so everything that you've got to do, all of the things that are on your plate that you're trying to cope with, they just feel even harder. Which brings me to my final tip, and that is building in a regular meditation practice. I cannot emphasize this enough. Perhaps you've already got a meditation practice, but if you don't, look, the research is there. There's reams and reams of literature to support the benefits of just a short meditation practice each day to calm down your body, calm down your physiology. It changes the structure and the function of your brain, improves your coping capacity, really reduces that kind of emotional reactivity that we can fall into when we're a bit stressed and at our wits' end. So it just helps regulate your whole system so that you're more calm, more focused, you have more clarity, more of a sense of an inner peace so that you can maintain that level of calm and clarity even when things around you feel really chaotic and out of control. It really just needs to be 10 minutes a day, even 5 minutes to start with. And if you build that up, I guarantee you that you will notice the difference. And to help you out, I'm going to give you a free 5-minute meditation that you can download below. Listen to it each morning. Just try and see how you go with that, and then let me know. And of course, if you're really intent on building and sustaining a meditation practice, my 8-week Mindfulness for Busy People course could be just the thing for you. It is all of my training as a mindfulness teacher, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, self-compassion, acceptance and commitment therapy, all wrapped up into one really effective evidence-based 8-week course which you can take in the comfort of your own home. I'll put the link to that below as well, and if you use the code YouTube, I'll even offer you a little discount if you want to jump in on that. As usual, I hope that has been helpful to you. Please do leave me a comment. Let me know what your best coping strategies are when you're feeling stressed. If you've got any go-to strategies that you know are effective for you. Again, give me a like. I would love it if you would subscribe. I'm here every Tuesday with tips to help you live your very best life.